Hey everybody, today we're going to learn the Japanese stab binding. So what's traditional is 4 holes. We are actually making a modified version with 5 holes, and you'll see why once we finish the binding. So here's a finished one. My cover isn't decorated, I'll decorate it later. Okay, so here are all the parts to our book. I have my sketchbook cover, the pages inside. I'm going to make sure that the holes are lined up pretty well. If they don't line up totally perfectly, as long as you can see light through them, a needle will fit through them. We're using our yarn needle and some yarn. Okay, so a tip on threading the needle, sometimes the yarn tends to fray, as some of you noticed last class. Okay, so if that happens, I'll give you a trick, but maybe you'll have luck. It'll just go right through the needle. And what you want to make sure is that you have at least 1, maybe 2 knots, just so that what you don't want is the yarn falling off your needle as we're sewing. You don't want to do more than 2 knots because it might be too bumpy to get through these holes. Okay, but at least 2 knots. 2 knots should tie it. Okay, now I'm going to find the middle hole. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's the middle hole, and then there are 2 on each side. I'm going to hold my book in front of me and a little bit up from the table. So there's some space, and I'm going to go up through the middle hole. I'm going to pull my yarn almost all the way through, but I'm going to leave a little bit of, I'm calling this the tail, like a little doggy tail, okay? Just a little bit. Put my needle off to the side. I'm going to grab a piece of tape, flip my book over, and on the back, I'm going to just put this out toward the middle, sticking out straight out horizontal, and just tape it. I'm going to just tape it lightly. It's not going to stay taped. This is just going to keep it out of the way, and it'll keep it from popping through the hole when we're sewing. Okay, now we are ready to stitch. There are 2 directions that our stitches are going to go. They're going to go up the book from one hole to the next, but they're also going to go around the book, around the folded side. So what you'll notice is that we are sewing in a pattern. Okay, so our very first stitch is actually going to be around the side. So there's going to be this is going to be the short stitch. So I'm going to take my needle and yarn and just sort of pull it out like this, and then I'm going to go underneath with my needle and up through the same hole. So I'm making a loop around the outside edge of the book. Okay, like this. So I went around and up and through. Okay, a tip as we're sewing: if you just gently tug on your yarn and you hold it up, pull it up toward the sky, it'll be a little bit easier to figure out which direction to go next. Okay, so remember I said this is a pattern. We're going to do the short stitch and then the long stitch, the short stitch and then the long stitch. So we have a short stitch. Now we need to go do a long stitch to the next hole. So I'm going to go up to the next hole. My yarn was at the top of the book, so now I'm going from the top down to the bottom. Now my yarn is underneath. I'm tugging to make sure. Okay, yes, my yarn is hanging underneath the book. So now I'm going to go out to the side. So I'm pulling it out to the side and back through the same hole to do my short stitch. Long stitch, short stitch. My yarn is underneath. I need to come back up. So I'm going to find that next hole. I'm going to go up to the next hole, up toward the sky, and through. Okay. I'm tugging my yarn to figure out where to go next. I want to make a pattern. If I go this way, oops, I forgot this stitch, right? So I just did a long stitch. What's interesting is you're also making a pattern on the back. So it'll start to be, you'll see yarn and then a gap, and then yarn and then a gap, and then we'll put it all together. So I'm going to go around the folded edge to do the short stitch. When you get to the top of the book, we're going to make that long stitch, but we have to start winding around and going the other direction. So we're going to go up and around the back of the book. Okay, so I'm going to go up and make a loop, and on the back I'm going to go to this next hole. So what it looks like, I made a big loop around, up and back down, and through this hole. Okay, now I'm tugging up toward the sky. I already have a short stitch here, so I don't need to do that. You don't need to do it twice. So you're just going to look with your artist eyes and see if there's a stitch there. You're just going to go, you're going to skip that step. So you can say out loud to yourself, long stitch, short stitch. Now I need a long stitch. So I'm going to go down through the next hole. Okay, I have a short stitch, so let's check the back. Oh, yep, I have a gap right here. So now I'm going to go up through the next hole. So see how now we're filling in the front and the back. All right, now I'm back to the beginning. Now really we're just doing the same steps, but now we're going down to the bottom of the book and back up. Okay, do I have a short stitch here? Yes, I do. So I'm going to go down through the next hole. Do I have a short stitch? Nope. I need to go around the outside, around the folded edge. Okay. My yarn is underneath, so that means I need to stitch the back if I need to. Yep, I do need to go fill in a long stitch here. Short stitch. Remember, when you get to the edge, same thing as the top. I'm going to go down to the bottom and wind around to the back. Up through the hole. Now be careful with this one. Sometimes it tends to flip. So you want to make sure that you're going slow and the yarn touches the bottom of your book. It can pop off, but you just want to make sure that it's stuck to the bottom of the book so we can see that vertical stitch. Okay, looks like we're almost done. I need to go, I have a short stitch. I'm going to go down through the next hole. Let's check the back because it looks like the front is complete. So let's check the back. Oh, yep, one more stitch. And look where we ended up. We are ending where we began, through the middle hole. So that's why I actually like 5 holes, because we end up where we started. Then you're going to take your scissors, which I forgot. Here are my scissors. And now is when you can flip to the back and take the tape off of the tail that we left before. And you're going to check the length. You want, what works the best is if you have both the front and the back match lengthwise. So if you have a little extra yarn on your needle, you're just going to line it up with the tail from the back and make them the same length. Just cut off the extra. Now we have a little bit extra to tie a knot. Okay, so we can just tie a basic knot, which is, I'll try and do it over on this side of the book so you can see a little bit better. I'm going to take my 2 pieces of yarn and cross them. Then I'm going to put my hand underneath and I'm going to take the yarn that's on the top I'm going to fold it over and through and back up the loop. Okay? If you do that twice, it'll be more secure. Once, twice. If you have enough left and you would like to, you can tie a bow. You don't have to. It's just a choice if you like that look. And if you don't know how to tie a bow, I can help you if you want to do that. Okay? And that is our Japanese stab binding.